evening and welcome. It's a lovely Monday night here on DJNTV, and tonight we're going to be coming to you from across the United States. Right, Matthew? You're in Vegas.
I am in Vegas.
And I'm in Minnesota, so that's like we got the North and the South going for us tonight.
We're ready to rock and roll. Welcome to WWE Raw.
Exactly. DJ verse. That's great. That'll be fun. So tonight we're going to be digging into a little bit about a lot of Matthew's past experiences and what he's been doing today. And he's been taking some really kind of cool things that are going to be, some of that knowledge is going to be definitely beneficial for you in your business as what you're doing. We'll get to those. Before we get before we get to that part, tonight's show is sponsored by DJ Event Planner, DJEventPlanner.com. The link is in the description of this video. Are one of the big sponsors of DJNTV, and they, of course, are a system for being able to communicate with your couples in the booking process, the pre-booking process, the checking dates and availability and doing all that, and then a lot of tools for the planning. So using your website as that assistant. DJEventPlanner.com, check it out. So, all right. So Matthew, thank you for being with me tonight.
Hey, I'm honored to be on the show. You are a legend in the DJ industry, so appreciate being here.
Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind. So let's kind of start a little bit about what are some of the things you're doing today, and then we're going to kind of go back and develop our story and bring us up to what brought you to where you are today. So we mentioned Las Vegas. You're living there. I'm guessing you went to a DJ convention there, and you just never left.
That's so funny. My first DJ show was Mobile Beat, and stayed at the Tropicana back in the day in the 90s. And I remember learning the pizza dance, and just went from there.
I was there. Yeah.
Right.
We saw that, and it's like, no, that's really not going to fly.
No, exactly. But they were creative, so it just got those juices flowing anyway.
That was for those of you wondering what we're referring to, back when people did line dances and things, there was some DJs from the East Coast that created, they had a song, the pizza song. I believe they wrote it, or maybe even to that point, and then they created a dance to go with it. And this would have been after the electric slide, obviously. I don't know if it would have, was the cha-cha slide? I don't think that was out yet.
So it was 98 when that happened.
So that would have been like Macarena time. We were just after the Macarena. So they were looking for the next big thing. Pizza dance.
And it didn't happen.
It wasn't that's for sure. But yeah, there was this whole dough rolling thing, and oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was something. So that was your first experience at a convention. At that time, were you in Vegas or where were you?
No, I was still in Montana DJing, went down here, and I actually met my fiance. So we met in 98 as well online. And so we got to meet in person and spend some time together here too. So it was a double whammy for me, having the DJ service and meeting her.
Very nice. Very nice. So what then, are you still doing some DJ things in Vegas, or what are the things that kind of occupy your day nowadays?
I am not doing that anymore, and I'm thinking about actually getting a Pioneer controller and getting back into it. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. That'll be a hobby. That'll be the hobby part. But for now, just running my company full time. I have a podcast. I have a weekly newsletter, and I also have our website. Publish some books to help DJs and couples plan their wedding songs, and I do freelance SEO that we'll talk about too. So
throw the website out there, and then we'll be coming back to all this information a little bit later for those who want to load the website up while we're talking.
Website is myweddingsongs.com, and the newsletter, you can just Google Wedding Music Letter.
Nice. myweddingsongs.com. I'm going to put that into the chat for those out there. They can see that, and you guys can check that out in the background while we're talking and such. So you, Montana, then before Vegas, you were up there. Is that where basically you grew up then, up in the Montana area?
I did. I moved there when I was 3, and my focus was weddings and high schools. that was back in the day where you could get a book of all of the high schools in Montana and then send flyers to them because nobody else was really doing that. So
Not a bit. Back in the 90s, marketing was so much different. But I want to go, let's even go back a little bit further then. Before you really were into the DJ thing and you're doing that, and because you do a lot of things are done with music or around music with what you do today, obviously there was someone or some time in your past when you were a younger Matthew that somebody introduced you to music and that love of music just hooked you. Who would have been that person in your life?
that's interesting you say that. And I didn't realize this until I was older, but my brother was a huge music fan. And I think the reason it didn't connect is we didn't like the same type of music. He was into the heavy metal, he was into the Slayer and Motley Crue, and I was more into the pop and whatnot. So, but he definitely had a love of music and new music, and we met up recently, and we would have a competition and playing a song, and who can guess the song first from the beginning. So both of us know music very well.
So you had the hard rock older brother, was it your older brother? Yep.
Yeah, I only have one older brother. Yep.
And then you were the rebellious one who went into pop.
Right. Yeah. Actually hair bands, because I was really into Journey and all that. So.
Okay. So then what would have been your first album that you purchased?
Oh, it was a Journey album for sure. Probably Escape or Frontiers.
And for those of you wondering, those were, most of us now we just this Journey, greatest hits is what it was. This is back before they released their greatest hits.
And I could say, I had all the albums. Even there was Journey before Steve Perry.
What?
So,
Who did? No, say it ain't so.
Right.
So then. When did you start actually getting into the DJ thing? So you mentioned you were doing high school dances. Is it something that you kind of picked up during those high school years, or?
It is. We had MDA dances, muscular dystrophy, 24-hour dances, and I had a friend that owned a radio station, so they would supply all the music, and then I would be able to DJ along with that, play music, and that's probably where it started. And then when I went to college, freshman year, I said, hey, why don't I try doing this? Because I had all the music. That's back when we had a ton of CDs and cassettes, even cassette singles. And just the love of music. I got hired by a guy, and unfortunately too much in the wedding industry. I said, hey, I could do a better job than this guy. And that's when I started my own company in 1993.
So how many years were you, prior to starting your own company, how many years were you kind of involved at some level within the DJ world?
I'd probably say 5 years or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. So you had some experience with performing both schools and then you were able to open up and put your shingle out there.
Yeah, it really, it's funny that I was in a college town, and I was in the perfect city where I could travel throughout Montana. People don't realize that I could drive. I remember DJing a prom that was 14 hours away. So, but you just plan for that, and you have the hotel and whatever. So yeah, it was fun. I didn't travel that far for weddings because weddings couldn't pay that much back then. That's when we were in the hundreds of dollars back then for professional DJs.
But yeah, the distances we used to, even in Minnesota here, it's incredible the amount of miles we would put on. I look back at that and it's like, what in the world were we thinking?
Right.
Just a crazy.
Crazy. Yeah. The road slick. I remember driving 15 miles an hour because it was just a sheet of ice. 2:00 in the morning because driving home after the show, and it's like, but it's funny, the people from the cold weather. I had studded tires, and I had all my equipment in the back of my truck, so that truck was not going anywhere. And knock on wood, I never ended up in the ditch or just was cautious.
So Matthew, for those who have no idea what studded tires are, very few of them even know what snow is. But I mean, for the people who don't know what studded tires are, give us a definition or explanation of what those are.
So the rear tires have little pieces of metal that stick out past the rubber, so that way it can grab the ice. So that way That way you can, instead of four-wheel drive, or you have four-wheel drive in addition, where I only had a two-wheel drive truck with rear driving, that it never went anywhere.
Mm-hmm. And we're so crazy in the upper Midwest in these northern states that we put those metal pieces on our motorcycles and we drive them in the winter too. We put them on our snowmobiles because, well, why not? How much more fun would
Right.
it be? So studded is, yeah, it isn't just for your, that little thing you put on the bottom of your shoes.
Right.
So in the early 90s,
Yep.
what were some of those early challenges as you were getting your business off the ground? Because starting today is so much different. So that's why we're going to kind of just establish,
Sure.
what were some of those early challenges that you faced during those startup years?
Yeah. Looking back, I'd say the biggest challenge that I hated the most is I had to buy a CD or a cassette for $10, and I only needed one song. When that changed with streaming, oh yeah.
Oh, even when the music services kind of came out, it was like, oh, what? This disc CD has 8 songs I can use? Well, really, technically, there's only probably 2 songs you could use, but there were 8 songs that were popular enough.
Yeah, definitely. When I figured out promo only, they were my godsend. That, like exactly what you're saying, 20 songs on there. I'd probably play 5 of the 20 regularly. Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah, it was a fabulous thing. Talk about a little bit about the marketing. You mentioned, of course, with schools that at that time mailing was possible and it worked. What kind of marketing were you doing in those early days?
I was doing, like I was saying, flyers to the schools. That was number one because they called all the time, just from the flyers. And you're talking. I was targeting all of Montana, and I'm sure even if you were in, let's say, Chicago, you had a 10-mile radius around Chicago. Just think of the number of schools that you could hit. So I was always busy doing schools, and I was spending way more than I made. I would prided myself in having a very large light show. American DJ loved me.
Oh, yes.
And the movers and all that stuff. So, but as far as marketing, that's back in the day of the phone book. So the bigger the ads, the more exposure that you got. I did bridal shows, of course. Yeah, there's some in the malls, some in I remember like a Macy's where they would just have shows, which still happen today.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a great connection if you can make that work for your company.
Definitely. Yeah, some of the things are still around. For those of you wondering what Yellow Pages were, there's this thing called a phone book. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it was a hard copy of Google, we'll call it that, for phone numbers.
And you could even say that maybe even direct mail works now because so few people do it, depending on if you're going after those corporate clients or whatnot.
Yeah, I think there definitely are places for that. So you mentioned, of course, the 10-mile radius in Chicago with schools. Give us an idea. When you were doing a mailing to schools, how many schools were you mailing to approximately?
I'd probably say that I don't remember the exact number, but I'd probably say 150.
And you might
I did all of
remember
them.
that little thing Matthew said a few minutes ago that he sent to all of the Montana schools right there, 150. When we would do mailings to schools here through central Minnesota, we basically stayed out of the metro area because figuring that there was a lot of competition there. But we would do almost everything within 3 to 4 hours of our office in the rest of the state. And that put us at about 200 schools.
Yeah.
And it was a nice number. We were always, it's like, yeah, that's great. In Chicago or a larger metro area like that, yeah, that's a drop in the bucket.
Just to give perspective, there's less than 1 million people in the state of Montana.
Yeah.
So,
and very, very spread out, of course, across from east to west. So you were doing your weddings and doing your shows and such. So what was then you eventually transitioned in as you went down to Vegas. What was the big reason for that, making that move to Vegas?
I met my wife in a Yahoo chat room. That's a
Hmm.
little no nugget there.
Yeah.
And either
Thanks,
she
that
was
explains.
moving, right? Either she was moving to Montana or I was moving to Vegas.
Okay, so she was
And
a Vegas.
think,
Hmm.
yep, she was here. And so that's thankfully I moved here and she didn't move there. Sorry, Montana people.
Hmm. A beautiful area, beautiful state, but
Yes.
there's something called winter that is formidable.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely.
Shoveling snow and yeah.
So when you made the transition, did you kind of decide that okay, I'm going to just shut the DJ business down, or did you come down and say let's kind of dabble a little bit, or how did you handle that?
That's a great question. Looking back, wish I would have hooked up with somebody else because I didn't know anybody
Hmm.
and we were engaged, so we were going to hire a DJ anyway. But yeah, it's one of those things I wish I would have at least worked under somebody because my fear was in Montana, pop, rock, country, top 40, that's pretty much all the music that you need to know back
Hmm.
then. And with all of the cultures that are here, that scared me a little bit,
Oh, sure.
not knowing the music. And because I prided myself on being the music expert. So I just wish I would have worked under them. And it's funny. I talked to Jody Harris on my podcast last week,
Yeah.
and she was saying how everybody wants the Vegas, the quote unquote Vegas show. So Rat Pack, Elvis. And it's like, if I would have thought of that, I definitely would have worked.
Yeah, you could definitely branding a show based around
Mhm.
that Vegas experience.
Yep.
Things we probably can't do back at home because, well, okay, we like the Vegas experience for 25 minutes, and now let's play that
Right.
Shania Twain song now. Come on, you can do it.
Exactly.
So obviously you're kind of talking about different genres of music and your interest in that and being a student of music. Then what kind of brought you into the My Wedding Songs that brought that to your table?
That's interesting. So in 2003, that's 3 years after I moved here. I moved here after the world was going to end from 1999 to 2000.
Yes, our computers are going to stop. Yep.
Yep, yep.
Hmm.
And said, you know what? I still like music. I don't want to DJ anymore. Let me create a quote unquote knockoff of the Not Wedding Wire. And I created a website. I knew programming. So I created a website called Wedding Museum. And couples could go on there and actually create their own their engagement website or
Okay.
pages,
Hmm.
and they could customize it and do all of that. And so it grew that way. And then but I had the song lists. So then I realized at some point, let's say way too long, 10 years later, 15 years later, that 90% of our traffic was going to the song lists. It's
Hmm.
like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So then that's when we rebranded in 2017. So 2003 to 2017, rebranded to My Wedding Songs, got rid of a lot of the other content and really focused on wedding songs. And it's great talking to DJs too, where they say, "I remember when you were wedding me. I was still following you back then."
Mm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Means that we're both a lot older than me. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been around for a while. So then that you're working on that side of it, but you were outside of the industry and learning a lot about the digital world at that. What were you kind of doing on the other side?
So when I moved here, I was lucky. I had a business degree, so I was in purchasing of an electronic components company. And I'll give the short story. So I started there in 2000, and then in 2014, it's like if I'm going to work on this website, I need to get in the industry. I think I know SEO. I think I know all of these things. We're getting decent traffic. We're growing our site. It's time either I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. And that's when in 2014 I started working with a marketing company here in Las Vegas. It's no longer it's branched off, but the core of the business isn't available anymore.
Hmm.
But what I was fortunate is I learned from somebody, a mentor of mine, that taught me the right way on how to do search engine optimization, the white quote unquote white hat, the right way to do it. And what's in the best interest of the clients. Don't take control of people's websites. Make sure they own everything. All of those little things that I'm extremely thankful for today.
And when you're referring it to the white hat version of it, basically there can be good guys in this industry and there are bad guys or unethical characters. And
Exactly.
that white hat you're referring to being the respectable person.
Exactly. Because let's say you're going to build a website and they say, okay, I'm going to go buy the domain for you. Well, they own the domain, not you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some, like you were saying, there's some shady people.
Yeah, definitely. So you learned a lot of those skills and such, and then really then in 2017 you were able to start applying those at a high level then with the early incarnation of the My Wedding Songs.
Actually, before then, 2014, I was a sponge. Working for this agency, there was anything that I said that worked for a client, I put on my site. That I'm like, this works great. I need to do this too. So, yeah, anything that I learned, I did on my site, and that's when it took off. And then what I learned too is Wedding Museum, of course, is a terrible name. Everybody thinks it's old, all this stuff, vintage. When we rebranded to My Wedding Songs, that's when we got the hockey stick effect of, okay, now we're really known for wedding songs.
And when you're saying hockey stick effect, because that's an industry term that folks may not know.
Hockey stick effect is, you think of a hockey stick where you're way down here. Let's say you're getting 100,000 visitors a year, and then you get 4 million visitors a year. You get that hockey stick. It just a severe growth.
Very quick growth. Yep. Nice. So you learned, you applied, and things became you were getting some good traffic and good numbers and such. But like any business, it's got to be monetized. You had to figure ways around that, and driving traffic's one thing. But then, how did you learn about the process of trying to make money off the process and keep the lights on?
To keep the lights on, I was fortunate that I attended several meetups locally. So there was WordPress meetups. That's the software to build websites. There were marketing groups as well. And one of these times I went, somebody said, well, you're getting all this traffic. How come you don't have this ads on your site? And I'm like, well, I know about Google ads. So then, okay, you have to figure Google ads, you're making, let's say, 3 cents per 1,000 visitors. And then there's a step up that would be, oh gosh, just because I'm on the spot here, I can't think of their names. But then you're making $30, and then let's say $10 per 1,000 people. And then there's premium that you have to have a minimum of 25,000 visitors or whatever that mark is now, 50,000. Then you're making, depends on the industry that you're in.
Yeah. You
could be making 30 to 75. 75 or those are the websites that are financially based, or maybe it's injury based. So people are paying a lot of money to advertise on those sites. Whereas the bottom is going to be alcohol.
Yeah.
So you're going to be making maybe $10, per 1,000 visitors. So yeah, that adds up when you're getting millions of visitors a year. So that's how we made our money, and tried to do other things as well, and didn't know that the industry was going to collapse on informational websites. So thankfully we diversified a little bit.
And much of that information and such, was it a networking meeting? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So
meetup.com.
Yeah. Yep. That you have to learn. Yeah. Was such an interesting area, especially in that, in the teens there, because there was that growth, and you could drive traffic, and your Facebook was being nice and helping to drive traffic during that time. Oh man, you could have some great days of content release and in essence eyes on it.
And that's exactly why I don't do SEO for informational websites anymore.
Yeah.
Only e-commerce and regular businesses. Yeah.
How much the SEO, you were obviously digging into that in 2014. Now we're 10, 11 years later. how has that has much of the what you did back then and what you paid attention to then is the same today? Has it changed dramatically? How would you kind of compare and contrast the two?
Wow. Boy, this is a good deep dive for those who are in the industry. A lot of the informational websites that are not big brands have completely disappeared. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to put anybody out, but yeah, a lot of course, the Knot, Wedding Wire, Brides, they're big brand names. They're going to survive, but all of the little guys that had very valuable information that did not use AI, but Google had to do something to combat AI. When you have websites that are adding 100 articles a day, they have to do something to combat that, and they called it the helpful content update in September of 2023, and so that was their big updates to combat that. And so you have to have a big brand.
Yeah, for many of us who had websites that were kind of the little niche blog type websites, it just killed us.
Yep.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, you could have basically shut things off, and you wouldn't have, you just saved some money there on hosting, for lack of better, nothing else.
Right.
But there are still things that with SEO, you mentioned that you're more in the retail side of it, or the business, the shingle type of websites still have some value with it, creating SEO.
Absolutely, because people are still searching on Google and they're looking in the maps section, and so you still have to optimize your business to show up in the map section for your area. So yeah, there's still things you can do to rank on there, because most of the clicks for local businesses, if you're looking for a plumber, technically, I shouldn't say technically, most people are not going to the organic results or ads. They're looking at the map saying, who am I going to hire from the map section?
Yeah. Yep. Who is closer? It's like, oh, that one's 10 miles away. That's close enough.
And DJ's the same too.
Very much so. I see that quite often now. That's been my biggest driver recently. When we have our little question, it says, hey, where did you find us? And they're like, yeah, in Google. And then when I talk to them, it says, oh, I hear you. Yeah, when we popped it up, I could see that you're only like 10, 15, 20 miles from us. Well, yes, I am. And now you know where I live, and now you're going to stalk me. This is
right.
Maybe this isn't such a good idea. Oh, things have changed there with that.
Oh.
So the website and things, you had that up there, and it was a tool, or that you have basically people reaching out, DJs using the tools, your list and such, and you have had end users, in essence. Kind of talk a little bit about how you have been able to target your publications and things to these two different audiences.
That's a great question. So the bulk of our traffic in our heyday was, of course, it's going to be the couples, because there's 2 million, on average, 2 million weddings in the United States a year. And there's not 2 million DJs. So the market is much bigger for couples. And so they were going to find us on Google, and that's how they get to the site. And then having the relationships from the DJ shows and just communicating with them as well. So then that's why I decided to make the books, because now as one of the revenue streams for diversifying, creating a book for couples to help them plan their ceremony and reception music, and then also for DJs that really want to dive in there and learn more about the music.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of a response have you had from, let's talk specifically the DJ, because obviously the couples have found that to be, because you have had that traffic, but the DJs, sometimes we think we know better than everyone else type of a thing. So what kind of feedback have you been getting?
That's interesting you say that. I'm going to give the political answer. There's been both. Yes. Yeah. There's the DJs that know everything. that are working every weekend, that's fine. You do your thing. You're not my customer. But if you maybe you're I don't want to say a hobbyist, but maybe you don't work every weekend, or maybe you just want maybe you have a wedding and they're really into 80s synth pop. Well, okay, I could throw it on. I could throw it on Chat GTP or GPT, or maybe I could just send Matt a question or look through his stuff to find out what to play.
And for those of you who are watching, the link for Matthew's books are in the comment section. You can go and click on that, and it'll take you out to, am I counting 5, 6 books?
I am. So I did the one for the DJs, one for the couples, and then I'm like, well, let me narrow this down further. So I have 2010s, 2000s, and 1990s.
Yeah.
And those are broken down by genres as well, about 7 apiece. And now I'm working on the 1980s as well, because it's funny. I put out an email or a poll in my email. I said, "Hey, do you guys really care about the 80s? It's so long ago." 97% said yes.
Yeah, I think the 80s are, but the sad part about it is if you'd say, "Hey, how about those 60s songs?" That we played. I mean, those were the money songs back when you and I were just getting going, and now it's like a token one maybe.
Right.
And
no more Run Around Sue, or if you have an older crowd, or maybe you're doing, my parents are 84. Yeah, they're my parents are in the 50s, 60s still.
Yeah, and sometimes you drop in and people will be like, yeah, and it goes over really well, but it's not like it used to be by any means, because that crowd has just kind of gotten a little bit older.
Yeah, and you figure too, I'm in the 80s. My brother's my nephew just got engaged. That's what I'm going to want to hear at the reception. So the 80s are still relevant.
Definitely. And with movies and such, we've talked on other shows about, whenever a Guardians of the Galaxy movie comes out, it opened up so much. And I'm sure when you're doing your research that you're having to keep a tab or a finger on the pulse of what's going on out there. Let's kind of talk a little bit about how do you kind of keep up with not so much the newer music, but seeing what's all of a sudden going to be hot that could be from the 70s or 80s. How are you finding all those types of things to be sharing that information?
So TikToks, of course, the TikTok and Billboard relationship expired. I'll just say that because TikTok wasn't giving. Oh, it was because Universal Music Group canceled their contract with TikTok. So then their Billboard's like, you don't have all the information, so we're not going to do this anymore. The chart. So, but if you are a advertiser on TikTok, they still have their charts behind the scenes for the business owners. So that's what I'm checking as well. And it's fascinating. I remember not that long ago, the Yeah 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 song Maps was, and I'm like, why is this song trending? Exactly. It's number 1. Why is this song trending? Because I'm not watching TikTok every day.
Yeah.
But at least I may not know why, but I know that the song's trending, and that's something that I have to include in there.
And you include that type of information. You mentioned a newsletter.
Yes.
That's the kind of the spot where you're able to share that type of information, obviously much quicker than
exactly
the next generation of the book.
Yeah, the last day of the month, I go over the newly released songs, and then because there is a paid version and a free version, the paid version you do get the trending songs as well.
And that when you're compiling that information, now you came from a wedding DJ background. Are you compiling it as a resource for the wedding DJs out there, or is it more of a resource just for people in general, or what is your target for that service?
That's a great question. So we are called the Wedding Music Letter. So I am thinking definitely listening to lyrics and focusing on the wedding side of it. I do my best, but and I know there could be songs that, well, this one's really not appropriate for a wedding, but it's trending and everybody wants to hear it. Okay, I guess I'll throw it on there. I never did add add WAP to any of my playlists, so I'm pretty proud of that. But there's, if the couples wanted, that's up to you.
Yeah, precisely. That's kind of the in essence requester beware, or the yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many of those little songs that unfortunately have popped up over the years.
Yeah.
All the way back to Moni Moni.
Well, even so, I was doing my synth playlist. I was creating that a couple of weeks ago, and it's like Tainted Love. Well, that's a great song, but the theme's not that great. You have Relax by Duran Duran. Yeah, that's not that great. So
Yep.
you just have to use your your what you're willing to play.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to suggest it.
Yep. Oh, I definitely get that, because we when I was creating playlists and such in the 90s for my multiple DJs on staff, because I had more time to be perusing music and trying to share some of that information. And, well, that's a great song. They play it on the radio. Yeah, but...
Yeah. Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Yeah, I think I'm good. I don't need to... it's still my choice. Unless if you're not going to request it, I don't need to play it.
Yeah,
there's plenty of other music.
It's not gonna all of a sudden pop into that playlist. That's for sure. So you have your the message or the email and such that you send out there, and you do that. Are you going and doing it across all genres then, or are you just basically highlighting some of the recent pop songs, or how diverse are you able to make that newsletter?
So the weekly newsletter is every Wednesday, and that's more specific. I think in 2 weeks I'm coming out with I'm starting the 80s series, so probably 80s pop. I can't remember exactly what one it is, but so that one's more specific. But the one that's in the end of the month is across all genres, whatever is trending. I'm trying to get to it. Just like Boots on the Ground's really popular right now, trending very, very hard. And then they have different versions of it in different genres. So, that one's definitely at the top of a lot of lists right now.
Mm-hmm. So it could be, coming in a country, as long as it's a trending song, and that you want to definitely be kind of bringing it to folks' attention.
Exactly. And then the wedding songs, I kind of compare myself to promo only. I say it's usually about 25, 30 songs, new songs, wedding songs to consider. It could be a first dance. It could be a party song across all genres, whatever I think is. Both of us have been doing this for so long. It's like, I can tell what's going to be a wedding song, what's not going to be a wedding song.
Yeah, usually we're pretty accurate. Not all. There's sometimes there's a surprise, but not often. So I want you to talk a little bit about the importance for DJs who are like, oh, I've got my, I play Love Shack and I play, the Grease Mega Mix, and I've got my list. How important is it for DJs in this day and age to be basically kind of using a service to be updating their music list a little bit and to be aware of what's out there?
I think it's really important because I think that's what's going to make you stand out. Yes, you can play those, and I'm not saying not play those. The Macarena is trending right now, and I'm not saying not play that. But what else are you going to play with that? Are you going to go from that to the Cupid Shuffle to the Wobble, whatever's next? But
or the Pizza
why
Dance.
not go? Yep. Why not go into like we're saying, Boots on the Ground, something that's newer, that is trending. Maybe it's Hot to Go. You're going from a line dance to something, instead of YMCA, you're playing Hot to Go. So it's just playing that newer music. So just to keep your playlist fresh.
And I think for those of us who are over 40, I think that there's a huge advantage to be able to have some confidence in some of the songs you mentioned there, that, okay, so I listened to it and I thought it was pretty good, but now basically you're giving me a little bit more reassurance that maybe my ear of, hey, it's Hot to Go. I don't hit the clubs anymore. I'm not doing that kind of stuff, and radio stations don't work like they used to. But just that reassurance, I would think that you're getting feedback from people saying, hey, this has been really helpful because of that.
Exactly. They're saying, DJs are saying, thank you. I had a DJ reach out recently that said, hey, we did this birthday party. We're trying to figure out what 60s music to play. when you're in the moment or when you're prepping, hey, yeah, this song or that song, we can throw that in the mix, at least put it in the crate for that party. I don't have to play it, or I could play it. At least it's giving me the ideas of what I can play.
I think another side of when you're putting together, some songs to be aware of and such, what's kind of huge about that is that you may not play it, but you could have it in the crate. And then when someone comes up and says, "Hey, do you have that new one from whoever?" Yeah. And you're instead of looking at them like, "Who?" Yep. Or "What song?" They'll be like, "Yeah, I got it right here." Doesn't mean you're going to play it, but just having that, I think that, especially again, those of us over 50 now, to know some of the newer songs and be aware that they are out there and aware that they're doing something and trending somewhere, hugely valuable.
Yeah, especially Chaperone. I can't tell you how many DJs that I've talked to that don't even know who she is, but she has like 4 or 5 songs in the top 20.
And her album came out, was it last summer, last spring? I mean, it was a long time ago, and typically you wouldn't expect that much of a lag, but she's been hot.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to somebody because I had my top songs of 2023. She's not on it because she wasn't popular yet. The album was released. Then she's not in 2024 because it was released the prior year. And now she's got her new country album with the new song "The Giver" that's trending crazy. So,
but that one is getting a much quicker response than the others, which it is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I wanted to talk a little bit because you mentioned, of course, understanding playlists and reading the crowd, and I think that's an area that is overlooked by a lot of DJs. Is that our playlist? We have our playlist, and these are the same set of 3 songs I've been playing forever, but sometimes that doesn't work for you as well as it could. Kind of talk a little bit about some of your theory on that when it comes to those playlists and reading the crowd.
Gosh, it's so important. I would like to ask you a question. Sure. How many times have you gotten a playlist to say, this is what I want for my cocktail hour, and they don't respond at all?
It happens. I mean, not too often anymore because one of the other areas that is kind of having your style or your brand. And my brand that a lot of people know and expect is that I've become this yacht rock guy. That I've put together my cocktail time is usually yacht rock. So most of the time people are like wanting that because it kind of takes them to parents. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that when I was a kid. And then the youngsters are like, hey, remember that scene in Guardians of the that kind of a world. Right. But there have been the times where someone's like, oh, I've got this really cool type of music and I want to use it. And it just flops.
Yeah. and even that, let's just, even with yacht rock, you're known for that. You're not going to play the same songs at every single wedding. You want to intermix. Of course, you're going to play the Michael McDonald and the Doobie Brothers, but maybe it's not the same song. Maybe it's something music, brain dead. Anyway, one of the Doobies songs.
Yeah. There's so many. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Steely Dan.
Steely Dan.
Yeah, Steely Dan. And then, because that's fun to get into because you can, there's a couple of the hits, but pretty much everything is so good and so much into that yacht rock genre that you can start to go a little deeper into it. And then you can see the people who are really, really hardcore music people because they'll be like, yeah, I remember this song.
Right. Or you're playing Georgie Porgy by Toto. You're like, I didn't even know that was the name of the song. What do you
And they're like, what? That's so cool. When you have people out there and they're like, they get that weird look on their face and they pull out their phone and then it's like, they're Shazamming, aren't they? Yes, they are.
Right. Then you won. Yeah. And just to go back to your question, it's just so important because if they're not jiving to the yacht rock, or they tell you to play the Rat Pack, or they tell you, and they're not tapping their toes, they're not bobbing their head, they're not doing anything, then that's the music that it's not going to work at the time of dancing. So I would go a different route, try different things. If you're maybe you're playing 2010s dance music or 90s Euro dance. You're just going to test different things.
Yep, that being able to adjust on the fly, which of course, for people who've been doing this for a while, you get that. But for a lot of people who are just starting or getting back into it, that thought process, might just be a little, I don't want to say new, but it might be one of those things that you overlook and don't think about, and the importance of that.
Well, I think that, I came from an era that you would throw on the John Coltrane or the dinner CD, and then you would just sit down and relax, and that's what cocktail hour was. And I was one of those people too. And now I'm just not that person. I give tremendous credit to the DJs that live mix during cocktail hour, because they are really getting the feedback from the people that are there.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, and it can be a lot of fun, but it is work. There's no question about it. Yeah,
that's for sure.
Just a second here. I've got putting links in.
Cool. Thanks.
Right now, making sure everyone's got the links, so they can check things out. So I think we're good. We're good. Okay. Mikey, obviously you must be plugging your ears, because Mikey posted he can't remember the last time he got a request for Huey Lewis in the news. Obviously, you must be plugging your ears, because, any good DJ is going to get that request right away and often.
So, I'm doing my 80s list, and of course, The Power of Love is on there.
No, what you need to do is you need to just put this album on there.
Sports. Oh my God, I had that cassette. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to say I only have one of those cassettes.
Right.
Or only one copy, but I think I now have 6 or 7 copies of just the vinyl, because this was a collector color, so I had to have that, and then it was like, this is another, and then I had to have. Yeah. Mikey might say that I have a problem. I don't think so.
I had every Journey cassette, so that was my
thing. That's the music we loved when we were growing up, and there we are. So let's kind of bring it so today you've got, of course, the music list, the music newsletter. That's out at the website that they can sign up for that.
Yep, actually it links it to it because it's on its own domain at weddingmusicletter.com. But you can get there from the website myweddingsongs.com.
Okay. All right, I'm going to put those up. One last area I want you to touch base a little bit is you are offering some kind of coaching, consulting assistance when it comes to websites and getting things set up properly for SEO, because that's been such a huge part of what you've been doing here for the last number of years. If people are looking to get into that, well, first off, before we get into that side of it, how in this day and age, how much improvement, how much is it? Can they, if they invest in improving their SEO, are they able to see some results on that, or is it obviously it isn't like it was at 2014? There was a crazy time there, but yet there's still people who are doing well, if I'm not mistaken.
There are, and I think that I just want to start off with, if you're hiring a company that's saying we're going to get you #1 on Google, run now.
That's what I was after. Yes, that's what I was after. You can do things, but
that's why I don't focus only on SEO. I focus on, why not? Can you imagine that if you're getting 100 people to your site and right now you're converting, let's say 10% of those people into an actual lead? I like to work on the website so that way you're converting more of those people that are already coming to your site into leads. So that way, the 3 things: who are you, what do you do, and what do you want me to do? When I look at a website, it has to answer those 3 things in 3 seconds. So the help that I'm offering is just to not only SEO, but how to convert more people that are coming to your site. And everything that I do, a plug for Brian Lawrence. I don't take any business on myself. I just have him to handle it all, because he builds the sites, and then I work as a SEO strategist for him.
Okay. Nice. And you had mentioned, of course, earlier the importance of having things set up properly in relation and in connection with Google, because that is what is driving, and that is part of what you guys can do.
Exactly. You have your Google business profile. You have to optimize that. You have to optimize your site. And my biggest tip, I can't tell you how many people, the hardest thing for any business to do is get a review. And then they don't respond to the review. Google sees that. So my golden nugget right now is make sure that you're responding to all your reviews.
And when you say respond, just a simple, wow, thanks a lot, it was such a great night type of response?
So I actually, in the newsletter, released it last Wednesday on how to respond to 5-star reviews.
Nice.
But worst case scenario, yes. But make sure that it's from the DJ. I prefer that over the company. So if you're sending out a DJ, don't have it from, hey, John Young, owner. I would rather it say, this is the response from the DJ. It's Martha and John's wedding. Your wedding was fantastic. Thank you for having me be a part of it. And then this is when you want to, if they don't mention it, then you're going to mention the venue and then the city and the state of where it was. So Google's reading all of this of, if John's in the Minneapolis area, he's DJing at XYZ venue in Minneapolis. All of that's being mentioned. Google's reading that. So then when somebody's searching for a wedding venue in Minneapolis, you're going to show up.
Nice. And of course, you put tips like that in the newsletter that folks with the subscription can get, and to be able to improve their business with those tips.
Yep, exactly.
Excellent. Okay, so we got the wedding music letter and my wedding songs. For the website, if a person's like, hey, I'd really like to work with you guys a little bit to improve my website and things such as that, what's the best way for them to get in contact with that?
I would just you can reach out to me directly, Matt at myweddingsongs.com. And then if you want to, talk to Brian directly, he's at brianlawrence.com.
Okay. And I put the email there so you guys can access that and reach out to Matt, and then he can make the connections and get you guys all connected. So
yeah, I can look at your site and, we can go over it and just offer some tips. And I actually did that the last couple of weeks, just to give some DJs some tips on how to improve it and get more leads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's always so beneficial having that second set of eyes to look at it and giving some feedback.
And I'm a realist. I'm not saying my site's perfect.
No, I think I think that's an important thing, is that none of them are perfect, but just having even someone outside and can look at it and say, because I look at the same thing or look at something and it's like I could see it 10 times a day, 20 times a day, and it looks perfect to me. And then someone will say, that comma just shouldn't. It's like,
right.
Oh, wait, why did I do that? Yeah.
Or just be a customer. Go to your website, fill out the form, call, test everything on the site.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Very much so. Very much so. Matt, we are out of time here. Oh my gosh, this went fast. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story and your passion for the industry. Again, if you want to reach out, you can find him on Facebook. The email and everything, the links are in the chat. You guys can go grab those and reach out and chat and get signed up to get the newsletter. There's some great information there for you guys also. So once again, Matt, you mentioned podcasts. What days of the week do yours drop?
Every 2 weeks on Thursday mornings.
Every 2 weeks on Thursday morning. So they can find that out. Is it out on Apple and everywhere?
It is everywhere. It's the Wedding Songs Podcast.
Wedding Songs Podcast. Okay, you guys do a search for that and you'll be able to find it. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes tonight with our second show. Cubby and Dan will be coming in, and we're going to be talking about more wedding stuff we'll be getting into with our second show this evening. And again, tonight's show is brought to you by DJ Event Planner, djeventplanner.com. Link is in the description below. Go out there, check it out. And of course, if you like music lists, they've got the most requested songs from last year there for you to check out too and see what's been requested by a lot of the couples. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks.